I know. Hey, thank goodness that we have situations like that, because otherwise, that we would never learn anything. Like you see, what you were doing is what I do every single time I look for anything, Yuli, and that is I man look, and then my wife comes and says, "Well, it's right there." Oh, I see it now. All right, great. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It is another wonderful Monday evening. Weather is beautiful outside. We had a wonderful weekend also, and it is great to be with everyone today. We shall start our meeting tonight the way we start every single week. And my flag is working this week, dadgummit. I got it up there and it's looking beautiful and it's waving and it's ready to go. All right, everyone see that? Our waving American flag. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Stop sharing. Okay, we are in for a real privilege tonight because our Toastmaster is none other than former President Shankar Ponsalé, and he always does a wonderful job as Toastmaster. So I'm going to turn it over to Shankar now so he can introduce us to his team of thousands that is going to produce tonight's meeting. Shankar, take it away, buddy.
Thank you so much, Harlan. It is a privilege to be the Toastmaster of tonight. For the first time in history, I am taking your advice and I stand up. I got my wireless microphone here so that you can see my full body. What a pleasure, Toastmasters and dear guest, Ulrike Judkins, who is not a typical guest. She is the area director, if I am not mistaken. And I met Ulrike for the first time at a local area competition where she told her story about how she left Eastern Germany when it was under the socialist regime and how she came to the United States. And if you haven't heard her story yet, you absolutely have to ask her once. Very fascinating story. Let's go a little bit over the agenda here. If you don't have the agenda in front of you, when you go, actually let me quickly post it here in the chat. It makes it so much easier to follow along, because I know by experience that sometimes people are new to Toastmaster meetings. They don't immediately understand what our structure looks like, and it just helps a lot to have that link. So that link is in the chat. Our team tonight is our WAG, Tammy Perez. We have the general evaluator, Craig Sprout. We have our first evaluator, Laura Sanchez. And we need a second evaluator because so far, up until about an hour ago, we didn't have a second speaker. So we need a second evaluator. Do I have someone who is willing to spontaneously do that?
I'll do it.
And that is Joko?
Yes, it's me.
Oh my, Joko, you are absolutely fantastic giving me a speech.
Excuse me, can I jump in? Can I jump in here quick? Yeah. We probably should wait on letting new people evaluate until they've had at least 3 speeches under their belt.
All right.
That's just good form. So I'll be happy to take second evaluator.
Okay, thank you so much. Craig is a veteran amongst Toastmasters, and if he gives us that advice, Joko, it's probably wise to take it. But again, I really commend you for stepping up your first meeting, wanting to give a speech and be evaluator. Absolutely fantastic. Our timer of the night is Harlan Pickett, and again, first speaker Joko, second speaker Andrea Ferguson. At this point, I will ask our WAG, Tammy Perez, what the word of the day is. That should be an interesting one. Tammy?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I will be the WAG tonight. The word of the night tonight actually is twofold. We have the word enormity and the word enormousness. Enormity means extreme evil and does not mean enormousness, although those are often confused. It is acceptable to use it to mean deplorable enormousness, though. So the correct use of enormity is the enormity of the terrorist bombing brought bystanders to tears. Again, that's extreme evil. Enormousness, you can use that one as well. The enormousness of the homework assignment required several hours of work, which is large, a great amount. I'm going to post that into our chat. And Mr. Toastmaster, did you want me to go over the rest of my role or just that?
No, please go ahead and explain your role, especially for new members. It's always good to hear that several times. Thank you.
Great. Absolutely. As grammarian, it's my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers. I will listen carefully to their language usage, and I'll take note of any improper language as well as outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. As grammarian, it's also my duty to introduce the word of the day. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get up and walk while I'm talking because my computer is about to run out of battery and I have to go plug it in. I will also be a counter for the night. As the counter, I'll be noting words and sounds that I just used, such as and words that are used as crutches or pause fillers by anyone who speaks. I will also be listening for overused words such as and, well, but, so, you know, and repeats, or what Craig calls double clutches. That is, if you say something twice, I, or things like that. I will report then at the end of the meeting the number of times that each speaker uses these expressions or phrases. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Tammy. It almost appears to me as if your word of the day itself is an enormity. But we'll see. We'll see how often people can build it into their speech. It is one sign of advanced speaking skills when you can weave in words that you didn't know of before. You can weave into your speech. That shows an advanced state of speaking skills. The next role that I would like to have explained is the timer role. I would like to point out that our first speech, since it is an icebreaker, will be between 4 and 5 minutes. And our second speech is an advanced speech that will take between 16 and 18 minutes, folks. Craig, explain us your role. I'm sorry, Harlan, explain us your role as the timer tonight.
All right. Thank you very much, Shankar. I certainly appreciate that. The timer is a very important role in Toastmasters simply because all of us like to talk. And if we didn't have a time that we'd have to stop, then we just could go on forever. Okay, I was talking about myself. Never mind. Timing is very important because whenever you're doing presentations, when you're doing speeches, you're always subject to a certain time limit. Even if you have a keynote speech, those are going to have a certain time limit. You simply cannot keep people there all day long. Knowing that you can get your message across in the designated amount of time is extremely important as part of your Toastmasters process as you go through and become a better and better speaker. So I will be doing the timing tonight, as Shankar mentioned on the speeches that will be given. I'll keep those times. Plus, there's also timing for our table topics, which will be 1 to 2 minutes. And there's also timing for evaluations, which is 2 to 3 minutes. I will be doing the screen to different colors to mark that. For example, at the point where you have made the minimum time, you will get a green screen. And I will tell you, I will warn everyone right now, it has a very strange effect here. And therefore, it looks something like that. So hopefully that doesn't scare the heck out of you and you're able to complete your speech. But whenever you get to the halfway point, for example, a minute and a half in table topics, I will all of a sudden turn yellow in my eyes and look a little bit crazy. And you'll know your time is done whenever the evil Harlan shows up and my red eyes are staring at you directly into your soul. All right. So that is all about being a timer. And hopefully, as I move through those progressions, I don't terrify our speakers this evening. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. And I see there's a lot of activity going on in the chat. Craig always watching out for us. He corrects me. The icebreaker is between 4 and 6 minutes, not 4 and 5 minutes, as I said. So Joko, you have up to 6 minutes to use without any problem there. I did want to see if Ulrike had any initial announcements to make to the club. So Ulrike, if you have something, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Shankar. And thank you for actually remembering me, because now I put your name and your face together. Yes, of course, it was that last contest, which was still held in person, because after that, everything just went down. And this is the announcement fitting into that, that all contests from area level on will be held virtually for the rest of the Toastmaster year. So we're encouraged to do the club level ones virtual as well as practice. So that's it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ulrike. I think we all agreed that we've seen lots of positive sides to the virtual new era, as I like to call it, the virtual era. I really think there's a lot of positive sides to it. At the same time, at Toastmasters, we can learn to use tools such as Zoom, which helps everyone as well. At this point, I would like to go to our first speaker of the night, and that is Jocelyn Soto, who likes to be called Joko. As I mentioned before, I was and am impressed very much from the first minute I heard her and saw her in action, saw her interacting with the club, a already very seasoned speaker that without any doubt will perform very well within the club. She is also one of the first students of the Alamo College that took advantage of the subsidy that they offer to their students to join our club. So it is my extreme pleasure to announce Joko and her icebreaker speech. Joko, the virtual lectern is yours.
Thank you, Shankar. All right, everyone. Hi, my name is Joko, and I'll begin my speech. I was born in the summer of 1998, what the Chinese zodiac considers the year of the tiger. They describe the animal as brave, confident, and protective. Nonetheless, they are creatures of beauty that have incredible strength that they carry gracefully. Although I have never actively been involved with astrology, I find the concept very interesting. Unfortunately, though, a solar star chart can only encompass so much of my truth. I was born in Houston, Texas, to my two immigrant parents. They worked the majority of their lives living in fear of deportation. The ever-present risk of losing everything was made crystal clear to me as a child. I was taught to keep my head down and never bring attention to myself. We heard of other families who were taken by ICE officials and had their children separated from them. Every day, my father would wake up at 3 in the morning to give us a tearful speech and a kiss goodbye, fearing that would be the last time we'd see him. I knew what would happen if my parents were sent to one of the concentration camps established on our borders. So I stayed quiet and became invisible. Growing up unstable housing, and extreme poverty were staples in my community. I knew I wouldn't be able to afford college and saw as other immigrant friends of mine were forced to sacrifice their futures to support their families. At age 17, I had a realization. The cards were stacked against me. If I didn't escape the cycle of poverty then, I would never get out. That year, I took a leap of faith and moved to San Antonio, Texas. I had to learn to be self-sufficient in every aspect of my life. I had to pay bills for a household of 2 with no outside support. It was not easy. Over time, I was able to establish a more stable life. I eventually saved up funds to get back into school and began my journey towards higher academia in 2020. Over the years, I've gotten to know myself better. I have a passion for helping others and giving back to my community. I learned that I love organization, whether that be PowerPoints, speech, or itineraries for my everyday life. I love films and literature that expand my understanding of the world. I also realized that I have a voice. I don't need to keep my head down for anyone. I have the opportunity to bring active change to my community, to speak for those who have historically been silenced by fear. I empowered myself with the knowledge to fight back against the systemic abuse of my people. And I know what you may be thinking. There's a lot to unpack here. My story may be uncomfortable to hear, but it is the reality many immigrants face. I promised myself I would no longer be ashamed of my story. I was a child placed in a difficult circumstance. I shouldn't feel guilty about my truth. The ones who should carry that weight should be the elected officials who refuse to do anything about the concentration camps on our borders, the ones who turn a blind eye to the pain of my community. When I look at the Zodiac's prediction of who I need to be, I realize that I am not always the invincible tiger. Sometimes I get stressed out and question my capabilities. But I try to focus on the better days, when I win the fight of everyday life. I was brave enough to leave an abusive environment. I had to build my confidence alone. I actively protect my people from the injustice this nation has normalized. I am the tiger of my story, and I am ready to conquer the jungles of this world. Thank you.
What did I tell you, dear Toastmasters? I didn't promise too much. This was an absolutely fantastic first speech, but I will leave that part to the evaluator. Joko, what you explained, what is happening to immigrants and what the concentration camps represent is an enormity. But the enormousness of your passion and how you want to use your eloquence to make a change and make sure that your people will not have to go through the same fate over and over again is very, very inspiring. This is actually a perfect transition into our next speaker, because she too will speak about making people's lives better. Andrea chose to address tonight a very complicated, advanced topic. She'll be talking about health literacy and the disparity between different strata of society. Andrea, I'm looking forward to your speech. Elucidate all of us. Here is your virtual lectern.
Thank you, dear Toastmaster, dear guests, our very new area director whose speech I very much remember. You had a huge impact on me as well. It was an excellent story, but you're also an excellent communicator. So we're happy to have you here tonight. My name is Andrea Ferguson, and I'm going to talk to you about National Health Literacy Month and why we need it. As you all know, we have a highly complex healthcare and health insurance system. and it requires an advanced health literacy for effective navigation. For instance, health information, it's often written at or above a high school level. So people with low health literacy, they get lost. They can't navigate their health insurance. They can't navigate any of the technical guides. They certainly can't understand cost sharing terms or determine whether they're in or out of network, or how to calculate co-pays or deductibles or co-insurance. I mean, I have a master's degree and it's hard for me to do any of that. So imagine then people who are older or adolescents or people with really low income or lower educational levels. And then of course we have the racial and ethnic minority disproportion, which affects them at an even greater level. And this is the reason why we have Health Literacy Month for everyone. But for me, it really touches me because I know what it's like to have family that I have to walk into the clinic with, or make sure that I go with them to figure out what kind of procedure they have. Because of the historically unjust power structure, the way discriminatory policies and practices have systemically limited African-American access to healthcare and their resources, it's really important to push initiatives that are going to help them get educational opportunities in the healthcare space. It's really important to remove these barriers, and that's one of the reasons why we have Health Literacy Month. I want to start by talking about an enormity and an egregious example of an atrocity that happened. I'm just going to share my screen here. Before I do, so this was in 1932, from 1932 to 1972, 399 Black men were injected with syphilis by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. And 201 of them did not have it. So the study was just to watch what happened to men who were untreated with syphilis. And I have here, please tell me when you can see it. Can you see it? Am I sharing the right screen? Can you all see the image of the men?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So these are the participants in the Tuskegee syphilis study. And you can see they're all being injected. Did they know? Absolutely not. None of them had a clue. What that did, well, besides them passing it to their wives, who passed it to their children, they all died. And some of them, before they actually passed away, got to have a formal apology from President Clinton to the survivors and the families of the victims. So I should say before the people related to them passed away. So this is a really terrible example of what can happen. Decades later, you still have public mistrust for doctors and the healthcare practitioners. And there's still a lot of there still needs to be explanation of what's happening when you go into an office, even after overcoming that mistrust. I'm going to share my screen again so you can see what I want to do for you today is teach you a little bit about health information, how to read labels, or how to teach others to do that. I'm going to do it as quickly as possible, if that is even possible. Not sure I'm sharing the right screen. Please bear with me. I think this is the right one. What do you all see? Do you all see a health label?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so I'll start here with what's actually happening. Of course, you have questions for your doctor. The doctor is helping the patient. Then you see that this woman is having trouble reading her medicine label. Then you have a doctor reviewing the medical test results with the patient. Then you have a label. After you leave the doctor's office, you're given medication. But what are the possible side effects of this medication? Is it clear? Do you pay attention? And how many of you have gone to the doctor, you wait an hour, then you see them, and you're rushed out in 15 minutes. By the time all is said and done, you still have no idea what's actually happened. You're not alone. And by the way, this is not to demonize the healthcare practitioners who we love so dearly. We work closely with them, and obviously the Tuskegee study experiment was condemned. And again, you have the apology from the former president of the United States. And you have a lot of people out there who are trying to get health literacy available, health information available, because it is so complex. That means getting rid of unfamiliar words and lots of numbers, or having short visits with doctors, nurses, and pharmacists, elongating the visits, especially with things like direct primary care. But it's just an example of how we do need to make sense of this complex healthcare system. And that's why I want to talk to you about techniques that we can use. One of them is to build relationship with your doctors and your nurses and your pharmacists. Ask those questions, engage them in your care. Why? Because when you do it, you're likely more satisfied. The outcomes are better. The patient experience is better. You're more likely to follow recommendations. You get quality care, you get better results. So you do have to find the health information as well. Make sure that you look for it. Here we have a survey of where did you turn to for health information the last time you had a serious health issue? Did you ask a health professional? Did you ask a friend or family member, use the internet, or ask others who have the same health condition? And you can see that the highest percentage is asking a health professional. Well, if you don't have a relationship with your doctor, which is common for most people who are especially in lower income communities, then you are not going to be able to get the answers that you need sometimes. And also, you're not really going to, asking a friend or a family member using the internet, we all know what happens when you head to WebMD. You think you're gonna die. Everything is, you're gonna die tomorrow, or you're gonna die next week. You got your finger cut, that's a sign. Do you have a headache? That's a sign. Everything is cancer, everything is doom and gloom. This is not health literacy. This is not true health information. You can't just Google something or go to WebMD and expect to understand a really complex healthcare system. You may need extra support. And I have an example here of what happens when you do ask questions and you do actually do the proper research. You can I just get a little bit of help with sharing the audio for my video that's coming up? I'm not sure how to do that. Share computer sound.
You may have to share your screen again, and then
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Thank you. So this is Christina Cyphers asking questions about medicines, which I highly encourage you to do. And if you don't know what to ask, bring someone with you who can definitely do that for you.
When I was 22, I was diagnosed with premature ovarian failure, and that led to a hysterectomy. They stuck me on progesterone, which threw my body into overdrive, like a hormone overdrive. When my moods were going up, they were going down, and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And they had me on different medications. But the thought in my head was kind of like, something is not right. I started doing some research online, just try to find out any kind of information about hysterectomies that I can to see if I can kind of connect the dots with things. At first, I felt a little nervous questioning my doctor about my own findings of what I found online and what I had researched in books. And I brought out my papers and I said, what if we just did estrogen? What are your thoughts about that? She was like, well, I'm glad you asked that question. When you hear that key thing, I'm glad you asked that question. When you hear that, it's this weight that is lifted off your shoulders like, whew, okay, all right, now we can go forward. From then, we found an estrogen that worked for me. Complete change. Like 2 weeks later, I was back to myself. My life now is great. I just feel really good. I went from 12 medications down to only 2. I gained so much knowledge by asking those questions. I think a successful patient-doctor relationship is being able to ask one another questions and being able to be open. We each bring something to the table. I have the personal knowledge that I have gained from doing my research. He's got the education, he's got the expertise, and putting those two together, it's like a match made in heaven. Now I walk in, I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a lot of questions for you.
I hope you understand what can you all hear me? Yes? Okay, great. I hope you all understand what can happen when you ask the right questions. Even though communication technologies like the internet continue to change and increase our access, like I said, a good relationship between a doctor and a patient can have a tremendous impact on your health. On the one side, you have the patient, and that's you, or the other person, the person that you're caring for, but no one knows you better than yourself. You know how much you eat, how much you exercise, what medicines you take. You're probably the one with the greatest self-interest in trying to be healthy. And on the other side is the doctor or the nurse or the pharmacist who have the years of education and experience and want you to be healthy. But they're busy. And that's why I really recommend direct primary care, because they have telemedicine available to you. They have longer visits on average that double and triple the national average of a little over 10 minutes. And there are things that you can do to help your doctor with their job and maximize your understanding and chances of getting the help you want by engaging with them, by getting on like a health management program for diabetes or obesity and things like that. And when they prescribe you medication, you take them. So that's an example of something that you should do when you are really engaging with your doctor, and take it according to the instructions that you understand. I also really wanted to let you know that you can ask the questions about your diagnoses and treatments and medicines before you go into your appointment, if you have also got that direct primary care relationship. I have a direct primary care doctor, and I'm able to text him. I'm able to send an email. I'm able to call, and I know that I'll get a call back. So yes, part of it is on the consumer or the patient, but the other part of it is just, let's call it what it is. We as marketers understand how important it is that our audience gets what we're trying to tell them. And I think that we can do a better job as marketers and as healthcare practitioners in joining forces to dispense information to the public that they understand and engage, even with church initiatives, for example, having such an availability, a time slot available for the congregation to come in and understand how to read their blood pressure, or I'm not exactly, I even need to know the areas where people can just learn more and understand more about what it is that they regularly engage in. Before your appointment, write down those questions. During your appointment, ask the questions, make sure you're bringing people that can help, or even record. You can record those questions, the conversation in itself, and really call out your doctor about things that aren't clear. If they're getting ready to leave and you still don't understand what's happening, what your procedure is going to be, or you're not sure about the operation or the medication that you're taking, don't just think, oh, when I go down to the pharmacist, I'll ask him or her and she'll tell me, or any of those other lists of things that you can do, which would be Googling WebMD or anything like that, because you already know what the answer is going to be, that you're going to die. So make sure that you, during your appointment, get all that you need out of it and be responsible yourself. And you can always talk with Harlan Pickett about changing your insurance plan if you're just simply not happy with the medical coverage that you have or with the doctor that you're seeing. Use your network, use your resources, make it your business. After all, you only have one body, you have one life, and you want to make sure that it is optimum, that you are living life to the fullest. And I really don't understand why we put healthcare at the back of the burner when really it should be the forefront, the driving force, making sure that you're okay and not spending all of your wealth to get your health back, but spend your time, enjoying the latter parts of your years. So again, after the appointment, ask your questions, make sure that you get everything that you need. And we need to write for the public, speak for the public, create easy to understand lists and graphs and all of those kinds of things, both as doctors and as marketers. But you can help us by creating a list of good questions, and we'll make sure that we incorporate them. Not necessarily Shanks Web Development, but of course, Shanks Web Development, especially Shanks Web Development. That would help us quite a bit. Oh, and make sure you bring your medications with you, because sometimes you think you know, and it turns out that you don't. I'm sure that Harlan can vouch for that. There's multiple uses of medication sometimes, but your doctor might not actually tell you that you're being treated for. So you need to bring that with you and look out for your family too. I believe that I have come to the end of this session, and I hope that you all feel a little bit more informed. I hope that you all help your family and your friends and continue to do your part in helping to make sure that we all maintain our health literacy. And enjoy October, National Health Literacy Month. Dear Toastmaster, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Andrea. What a great speech. I find it enormously impressive, I should say, that you are able to leverage Toastmasters to build on your knowledge that you need in your professional life and craft a speech that helps educate our Toastmasters members. That is fantastic. That is the way you need to leverage Toastmasters, to build up your skills that can help you in your home, at school, or at your job. Dear Toastmasters and attendees, in the chat, I posted a link that lets you vote for your favorite speaker. Don't forget, it's only a subjective vote, but it is also very, very interesting for people to know how they performed on a certain speech. Also, it's highly encouraged to take a moment and send a private note to the speakers of the night with some quick feedback that they could otherwise not get. The software lets you private message people individually, so do take advantage of that feature. Next up is our timers report for the two speakers.
All right, thank you very much. Joko, hit it right on the spot there, 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Great job. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Joko did it. I thought your speech was really good too. And Andrea, 6 seconds more, you'd have been right on. 17 minutes and 54 seconds. Great job. I think now you understand. I've done 2 long speeches myself, and they're harder. They're harder because you keep thinking you've been talking for forever, and you still ain't talked for forever yet. But great job. I think you pointed out that truly the enormity of our healthcare system is because of its enormousness. And if you really think about that, that's exactly what happened. I really don't believe that it was designed to be that way to begin with, but that's exactly what has happened. Great job for both of you. You hit your times very well.
Thank you very much, Harlan. Next, we come to a segment of our meeting that is called Table Topics. We thought we would not have the time to do it, but since it is such a delicious enormity, we will at least try one, okay? Our Table Topics Master of the night is Andrea, and in case I put her too much on the spot, I would just remind her of the question we answered this morning. I think that is an easy and perfect question that everyone can easily answer. Andrea.
Thank you, dear Toastmaster. I actually do have questions for everyone.
Well, we have about 3 minutes, so we only got 2.
Okay, I would like to know if you prefer in-person doctor visits or telehealth visits. Anyone who wants to respond can.
All right, I'll take this one because I have done both of them. There's a possibility that people on the call have not experienced both things. I certainly would prefer the virtual visits. First of all, if I have a virtual visit, it means that nothing really serious has happened, because if it is something serious, then on the virtual call, they will tell me, you must go now to the urgent care emergency room or even the hospital. They will not be able to take care of that. But I can also tell you that whenever I had my virtual call, and I've done 2 of them, both times it was for poison ivy. And it was very interesting because I've always had to go into the doctor for that. You would think just stay out of it, right? Well, that's really easy to say, but whenever you're clearing land, poison ivy is going to find a way, I promise. And very interestingly, the second time that I called in on the teledoc, and they could clearly see it was for the same thing, the doctor had a good sense of humor and said, I see you didn't learn your lesson the first time. And I had a good laugh about that. And I said, well, I noticed that, you brought that up, and that is funny, but I will tell you the exact treatment given last time, the steroid and the anti-itch cream worked wonderfully. And I explained why I was going through that process. But I would definitely choose a virtual because it is so much easier to deal with.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to our Toastmaster because we have no more time left.
All right. I like that we think about timeliness. It is such an essential part of Toastmasters. Think about it in the days of online meetings where you can just send someone a link. Very often, if you work within an organization, you can attach someone to a meeting, and then it is important that we can rely on the meeting actually finishing on time. Anything else is in enormity. Wouldn't you all agree? All right, let's now move on to a part of the meeting that is equally important, because we are given feedback on how we did, how individual speakers did, but also how the meeting went in its entirety. And the person that takes us through that process is the general evaluator. And tonight's general evaluator, if I am not mistaken, is Mr. Craig Sprout.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. You are indeed not mistaken. My role as a general evaluator is to run the evaluation portion of the meeting. I can't overstate the enormousness of getting a good positive evaluation so that we all grow as speakers and we all grow as Toastmasters. For the evaluation portion, I will be calling on individual evaluators to evaluate speeches. We will also have the WAG report, and then at the end of all of that, I will give the Journal Evaluators report, which is an overview of the meeting, things we did well, and things we can improve upon. We'll get started with the evaluations. Our first evaluator, who will be evaluating Joko, is Laura Sanchez.
Thank you, Craig. And first, I want to apologize to the group for any noise that you might hear in the background, which I'm sure you will at some point with all the animals I have in my house. But unfortunately, our little green friend, Ollie, broke my headphones. And so I am without headphones until Amazon delivers them, hopefully tomorrow. I wanted to say, Joko, thank you so much for your speech. It's actually hard for me to find any constructive criticism to give you because it was an outstanding first speech. So I do want to talk about what you did well first, and I really appreciated your opening. It was an attention getter, and I like how you had a unique way to open your icebreaker to us. And then I also enjoyed how you walked us through your personal story, but then brought us back to the reference that you made at the beginning to bring your intro and your conclusion together. That was really well thought out. I also wanted to tell you how much I appreciated you sharing your personal story with us and how brave that is. Many in my family have experienced a similar experience to what you shared, and so I really felt it personally, knowing what they've gone through in their lives that was similar to some of what you shared with us. Finally, on things you could work on or challenge yourself for, the only really item that I noticed was where your gaze was, and that's because we're in Zoom meetings, and when you're in a Zoom meeting, it's very easy to have your eyes just below the camera instead of facing the camera. And that's because there's that tendency to look at the people who are on the screen. So as you see, if I look at you as an example, my eyes are not looking at the camera. And so that's the only thing I noticed, is that you are looking just slightly below the camera for your speech. And so I would just encourage you to challenge yourself to remember to focus on the camera itself. Other than that, it was outstanding. And I'm very glad to see one of our NLC students here in Toastmasters. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you so much, Laura. I will be giving Andrea my evaluation of her speech. Before I begin, Andrea, can you tell me what project this was and what your objective was?
The project that I have, I can't continue right now. So I did an off the script speech that goes into the wind.
Okay, good enough. I'm going to start with, of course, what you did well. You always have a good, clear voice. You have good use of the written language, or spoken language rather, and you have good vocal variety. You have the ability to inject a little bit of humor into your presentations and personalize them, and that's always appreciated. And you have a wealth of knowledge about this topic, a wealth, which is always awesome because we always know that if you're speaking, we're going to get our learn on about something. Those are the things that I find that you always do well. The statistics that you threw up, you had the 70% refer to their doctor, 59% referred to, I believe, WebMD versus 60% to their relatives, which kind of made me laugh a little bit. I thought that was an interesting statistic. I caught you with some ums and likes, which is you're getting to be a more advanced speaker, so I'm going to be a little hard on you about that. And also trust the tech. If you've used Zoom enough by now that you should know that we're seeing what you're seeing. So trust the tech and make sure that works. Those are jarring moments when you stop and ask us if we see what you're seeing. We don't really know what you're seeing, even if you describe it, because there was a slide where there were 3 items, one of which was a medicine label. And then there was a slide where there was 1 item, which was a medicine label. So you asked, do we see a medicine label? And we saw either of those. So that could be correct. So trust the tech. Be careful on the asides. And this is where I'm going to also call you out, which I've done before, for preparedness. I think this came together pretty quick, yeah? So I think that the lack of preparedness on this really showed in some of the asides. The asides get distracting when you say, well, I did, but before we do that, let's go back to this. Those asides can be very distracting. So I want you to prepare, Andrea. You could give killer speeches, because the other side of the preparedness was that we didn't catch the through line all the time. I know your through line was medical literacy, and it wasn't always clear as to how those tied back. And I think at the end of your speech, we should have some, especially a speech as in-depth and as thorough as that one was, that we should have a list of 3 things that's repeated throughout, that how we can, as consumers, improve our own medical literacy, or even help others improve their medical literacy. It was good information. Again, I can't stress that enough. You have a wealth of knowledge. Careful of the I want tos. We know you want to, or you wouldn't be doing it. Keep an eye on those, but otherwise it was a great speech. It was very informative, and I always look forward to hearing you speak. Thank you. And at this point, we will call on our WAG for the WAG report. Tammy.
Thank you. Shankar, wow. Enormity 4 times and enormousness twice. Shankar wins the night, the word of the day. I also have Andrea. I have her down for 1 use of enormity. Ulrike, you used 1 in the chat, and that counts. Harlan used enormousness once, and Craig used enormousness once. So it was really difficult. I think those words were very difficult to use, but you all did a fabulous job tonight with those. I found with Shankar, you used once when you were speaking, and it just kind of came out, but I caught it. I loved Joko when you were giving your speech. You had the Spanish pronunciation, San Antonio, Texas. Fabulous. Love that. Harlan, I know you used ain't kind of in fun, but I'm supposed to catch them, so I caught it. It's all good. And Andrea, I think that because your speech was so long, I have a list, like, I never have a list for you, Andrea, but there were a lot tonight. I think it was also what Craig was saying, that maybe you were not as prepared, and so you were trying to fill in, what do you say here, there, and so I caught a couple of us. So you repeated several times throughout, and you used all of those kinds of things, which just kind of says I don't really know what I want to say here. But overall, I agree. It was a fabulous speech. And again, I think it's really because it was so long, and, it was a last minute thing. So you did a great job though, overall. Everyone, good job tonight. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Madam Wag. And this is the part on Sprocket's Verbidanz. Did anybody get that reference? No? Okay, my evaluation of the meeting. Y'all are definitely not in my SNL cohort, so that is not a good thing. I'm going to have to educate some of you on that, I can tell. The meeting started exactly on time, 5:30 on the dot, which is perfect. That's awesome. We like to see that. Our Toastmaster in introduction of roles skipped a role and forgot to introduce your humble general evaluator at the beginning. I must have slept poorly this weekend because I'm really cranky and nitpicky today, so watch out. Quick note, it's usually good form to wait until after the meat of the meeting is done to solicit comments from guests. Even if they are very important people like Uli, we still wait and let them get in at the end. I heard a lot of I would like, I want to, I would like. We know you would like, we know you want to because you're doing it. So let's try to excise those from our vocabulary. We also have to watch our interstitial comments as we're handing off from role to role. Try to be brief and stick to what's pertinent to your role. We don't need a lot of chit chat in between and in the beginning of speeches, acknowledging other speeches. This is part of the time management of Toastmasters, is getting to the point and getting on with life. Although we like to compliment everybody, and it's tough to do, honestly, in this virtual environment where we don't have the kind of the social hour before and after when we get to talk to each other and give each other congratulations. Good job overall. What I really liked and wanted to call out was the attention to time that Shankar did, where he knew we were running short on time and cut table topics short so we could get wrapped up and get everything right as it should be, which is important as a Toastmasters meeting. And with that, I will conclude my general evaluation and return control of the lectern back to our Toastmaster, Shankar.
Thank you very much, Craig. I think your general evaluation tonight came out a little stricter than usually, but I think that is a good aspect of a more advanced group of public speakers, and I do welcome that. I really liked it. As for our best speaker of the night poll, without any doubt and surprise to most of you, I can announce that Joko was voted best speaker of the night. Congratulations, Joko. What an achievement for your first speech. Absolutely fantastic. At this point, even though Craig said I already gave Ulrike the chance to give an announcement, I would like to ask her again what her impression of our meeting was. Ulrike?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Shankar. I really loved it. It really brightened up my day. I had a challenging weekend and a challenging day, but that's not here time. Maybe you could set a time before a meeting where people could warm up and talk about things, do small talk and practice slide sharing or audio stuff. But I really love that everybody has either a very nice cleaned up background, not like mine, so you can start criticizing there, or have like King of the Hill. Is that correct, Craig? Yes. Or I like yours too, Tammy. That one is really nice and comfortable. It looks like a space I want to hang out with. I love that you had 2 speeches from a new member of the club and an advanced speaker of the club, which really kind of shows the balance. I would like to see more table topics, but I really love that everybody is aware of the time instead of pushing it over the limits, just as Craig also noticed. Question, do you do humor or you don't do humor? Do you do a humor position?
Well, we have a lot of people who have made that proposition, but we never really included it into our agenda.
It's not like I'm saying there is no humor in your meeting. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, for example, we have obviously guests. I totally understand the animal issue. I had to quickly duck out because I was afraid that my dogs were doing something in the yard which I would not approve of. So that's my only time I wanted to use that word, enormity, because it has happened before. So I do like to prevent such actions. And I like that little bird. What's the bird's name, Laura?
The bird's name is Ollie.
Uh-huh. And so he ate or destroyed the headset.
She chewed them to their demise. All I can say is the enormous, oh wait, she just said a word. I don't know if you heard that. She's learning to talk too. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But she's
Very good. So do we start a Toast membership for her then? Or
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make her an honorary member. But.
So and things to say as area director, yes, of course. I need to send out notes to see if availability to do a area council meeting, and plus anybody should be encouraged to do anything in regard to either participating or helping to organize the upcoming speech contest starting in January, February. I don't know if you already talked about when to do your club level speech contest. You know, it's international speech and evaluation, which is also quite interesting. So yeah, I mean, I look forward to see more of you. If I can come, I would like to come more often than just this one visit per, 6 months or something like that, which I'm required to do, but I would like to be more often. And thanks to the virtual environment, this is definitely way more possible. It's just like going to your doctor instead of driving out there, being on time, waiting in the waiting room and all that stuff. Yeah, the virtual stuff is actually also a opportunity. I definitely think so. I really love the speeches. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulrike. I speak on behalf of the club and can tell you that you're always welcome to go to the website, use the join meeting button, and be part of our meeting. Thank you so much for your feedback. Tammy, do you have anything you want to go over for the next meeting? That is your chance to do that now.
Thank you very much, Shankar. I appreciate it. I don't believe in my secretary role, I don't believe that I was able to get the timers reports on the table topics and on the evaluation. So
our very strict general evaluator did not call on a timers report for those things.
Oh, if you could put those, if you could
hold
put
on.
those in the chat.
Not my job. Not my job. Toastmaster calls for that report, and I do call for general evaluators.
All right.
If you could drop them in the chat, that would be great.
Oh, I'll give it to you real quick. Table
Okay.
time for me was 157. Laura was 155 on her evaluation, and Craig was 318.
You said how much for Laura?
155.
Okay.
I got a question. Do you vote on best evaluators?
No, typically we don't, no.
Okay.
No. And then if you'll give me 1 second, I will pull up next week's meeting, and I know we have roles to fill.
Yes, we do. Right now, we have a WAG, Andrea. We have speaker 1, myself. We have speaker 2 as Tammy, and table topics as Laura. So we will need a Toastmaster next week, also a timer, both evaluators, and general evaluator.
So who would like Toastmaster?
I can take the timer.
If you could say your name, because I had to put the screen up in front. I can't tell who's talking.
It was Joko.
It's Joko.
Joko, thank you. You're going to take timer, you said?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. Who isn't on here yet?